194th edition of the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. In Nashville, Tennessee, I'm the professor, Matt Perkins. And a wheel route across the Harpeth River from me here in the Music City, it's our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton.
Well, just in case anybody from the Nashville Christian football contingency is listening, we did install the wheel route this week. So I'm excited to hear that. It's like you're reading my mind, Matt.
Well, after you get to know someone long enough, you develop a little bit of telepathy with them. I would think. I feel like Josh and I certainly have over the now 15 years we've known each other. And speaking of, he is the third amigo in the Second City, and he's a man who enjoys an occasional Boddingtons. It's our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook.
You know, I haven't actually had a Boddingtons in quite a while.
Well, you're the person who introduced me to them, and I was at the liquor store yesterday, and they were on sale, and I couldn't resist that 4-pack.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good
for $5.99. Yeah. It's this podcast would fully endorse Boddingtons if we're looking for a sponsor. Anyhow, it is week 3 of the 2019. Yeah, it's week 3 of the 2019 season, and it is the rare week where we have no ranked versus ranked matchups in all of FBS football. But that does not mean there is not a ton to talk about. Let's get started with the quick slants. Josh, you told me before the show that you are not buying what Manny Diaz is selling.
No, we got a coach being stupid. Like, why do they do this dumb stuff? He's telling commits not to take their visits once they commit to Miami and that they need to be 100% all in. Hey, Manny, how did all in work for you at Temple? How did all in work for you at 1 year at Mississippi State, 1 year at Louisiana Tech, 1 year at another stint in Mississippi State? That one was funny. He was at Mississippi State twice for 1 year. I mean, what are you doing? You're not faithful either to the program. Also, buddy, win a freaking game before opening your yap.
Yeah, he has not exactly had the greatest start to his tenure, and that is reflecting on that team as a whole.
Josh, you really shouldn't hold back, man. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, why are you trying to bottle it in? I mean, they've now lost to, I can understand the Florida loss. People didn't really expect them to win that game, but losing at North Carolina did not do a whole lot. And it's not, I don't know if it's, Gerard Williams' fault, but because I think he's been playing okay, but I'm not really sure just what's happened there in Miami. Coach, you have any ideas?
I just don't think they're as talented as everyone thought they were. I mean, they even kind of fooled me. Like the guys that they got, that cupboard is not as stocked as it looks. So, I mean, he may want to cool it and just try to recruit the best way he can, but being 0-2 and telling recruits, giving them ultimatums I'm not a recruiting expert, but I do kind of have that part of it figured out.
It's okay, though. The fans are bought in. Tickets for their Bethune-Cookman game this weekend are going for as low as $9.
Oh, wow.
Well, I hope that's Bethune-Cookman fans snatching those up. I would rather, honestly, this weekend go see Georgia State play, Coach.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be that should be a fun one, actually, with Western Michigan, a team we all kind of like in the MAC. So, a fun non-conference, group of 5 game.
Yeah, this is going to be really fun. I mean, Georgia State is a team that we looked at in the preseason as a team that was going to be middle of the pack at best in the Sun Belt. And we even really had them in the lower tier. So, I mean, a 2-10 team just had so much improvement. And a lot of it is based on the quarterback, Dan Ellington. I mean, that guy is absolutely lighting it up. And, I mean, also don't sleep on Western Michigan. Offense is, they're rolling, but their defense has got to. And the reason I like Georgia State in this game is because their defense is just. Western Michigan's defense is struggling, giving 582 yards up last week in East Lansing. They allowed 51 points. Michigan State, I don't think, has scored 51 points in practice yet. So that concerns me when it comes to the Broncos. But Georgia State's my newly adopted team. So, I think a lot of I think Sean Elliott's done a tremendous job at just being patient and developing these guys and understanding that, the sky's not falling just yet. And I think they're responding to that.
All right. Well, speaking of our newly adopted teams, Josh, Eastern Michigan is headed off to play Illinois, who, is off to a 2-0 start for the first time in a while.
Yes, certainly a hot start for Illinois. With Akron and Connecticut, you sort of expected them to open 2-0, but with the way they'd looked the last few years, they didn't always perform up to expectations. Defense has played pretty well, held Akron to 3 points. Connecticut, they gave up some points early, but really solidified, only gave up 23. So they're averaging 13 points per game. Eastern Michigan, on the other hand, they have a quarterback who's come out of the gate pretty hot, Mike Glass III, 525 passing yards in 2 games, one of those coming against an SEC team that, it was a 21-point game, but if you ignore Eastern Michigan just not being up to speed in the first quarter, after the first quarter played Kentucky somewhat even. So this is going to be by far Illinois' toughest test in the non-conference. I think another slow start like they had at Connecticut could be a path for Eastern Michigan. Also a slight chance Illinois is looking past them to Nebraska, but this should be a fun one, actually. I'm excited for it.
I think that could actually be a very competitive game there. Unfortunately, my adopted team, the ECU Pirates, has a bit of a tougher matchup. They're taking on the Middies, and while they've only taken on Holy Cross this year, they looked really good in the process. 428 yards on the ground against them on week 1. They had the very rare week 2 bye, and they will. So the Middies are coming in nice and fresh and ready to roll out that triple option. But ECU thoroughly dispatched Gardner Webb last week, 48-9. That being said, going into Annapolis is always going to be tough, especially if you haven't really prepared for that triple option attack. Things don't look great here. Navy is favored by 7.5 in this game, and that feels about right. But there's a world definitely in which the Purple Pirates are able to pull off the upset, but Navy is going to be the more experienced team in this one. One thing I want to talk about, though, was 2 games in the FCS this weekend. They are Eastern Michigan at Eastern Washington at Jacksonville State and Towson at Maine. In Jacksonville, Alabama, the Gamecocks are going to be looking to take down the number 5 Eagles of Eastern Washington. Jacksonville State actually suffered a surprise upset week 1 of the season. They were a preseason top 5 team, but they lost handily at Southeastern Louisiana, 35-14. That Southeast Louisiana team is taking on LSU this weekend. I think the score might be a little bit different there. That being said, Jacksonville State was able to turn around things last weekend against UT Chattanooga, but they're going to have to improve on their red zone efficiency. They are only scoring, putting any points on the board when they get inside the red zone on 60% of their drives. So they are not finishing, and that could be a real problem against an Eastern Washington offense that is always a juggernaut. That Eagle team got beat handily in their opener against Washington in Seattle, but last week they put up 59 points against an overmatched Lindenwood team. There'll be a lot of points here. I like Jacksonville, though, to pull off the minor upset at home. The Eagles have not necessarily soared in recent history when they've been away from their crimson turf. But next, I want to talk quickly about a matchup in the Colonial. Number 8 Towson is heading up to Orono to take on the number 9 ranked Maine Black Bears. Maine lost a heartbreaker last week, actually, at Georgia Southern, 26-18, but they still have one of the best passing attacks in all of FCS. top 5 squad there. On the other side of the ball, though, Towson has a top 5 passing defense. It's going to be a nice strength-on-strength matchup. Obviously, as the New England homer that I am, I'm going to take the Black Bears here to win, but that is a game that I will absolutely be keeping my eye on come Saturday. So with that, time to take out your number 2 pencils and bust out those Scantrons. Time for a pop quiz. Gentlemen, are you ready for your prompt?
Yes.
All right. Last weekend, Maryland was able to score 60 points for the second game in a row, giving them 2 games of 60-plus on the season. If they're able to do so again this weekend, that will give them their 3rd game in a year with at least 60 points, making them only the 20th school since the year 2000 to have 3 such games in a season. And they would start the year consecutively with it on top of that. So your job is to name the other 19 schools that since the year 2000 have had at least 3 games in which they scored 60 points or more. Coach, off to you first. Or Josh, you can go ahead. And we'll get back to Coach whenever he's here.
He must be muted.
Am I still muted?
You aren't anymore.
Oh, okay. All right. That's the reason why I feel like what I just said didn't go over. I said UConn, and then I quickly corrected myself and said, wait, it's not teams that got 60 scored on them more than 3 times. So I feel like Oregon's got to be in this mix somewhere.
Oregon is correct. They're the only school to appear on the list 4 times. They've done it. They're one of 19 schools who have done it, but they've done it 4 times in 2008, 10, 12, and 15. Josh.
I got to go with Boomer Sooner.
Oklahoma put up 5 60 spots in the year 2008. That is tied for the second best mark since the year 2000.
There we go.
All right. I got to go with the Crimson Tide.
Alabama.
Because they play 3 FCS schools a year, so they break 60 every time.
No, sorry. Their high in a single season is 2. That is incorrect.
Well, dadgummit, Saban.
That was last year and back in 2010.
Aw, bummer.
Josh.
I'm going to go with the Pirate and his first stint, Texas Tech.
Sorry. They put up a lot of 50s, but not a lot of but not a ton of 60s, no more than 2 in a single season.
Damn.
I got to go with them Buckeyes.
Ohio State. That is correct. Ohio State has done it twice, once in 2013 and once in 2016.
Ooh. Well, I'm going to go back to the well of the Big 12 and go with I'm a man, I'm 40, and Okie State.
In 2011, they did just that. Corey.
All right. I'm going to really dig deep here and say Boise State.
Ooh,
Boise State. They have had 2 60-point games in a season 6 times, but never 3. Strike 2.
Damn.
It's not a bad guess at all.
No, I like that one. All right. I'm going to ride or die with the Pete Carroll era. Let's say USC racked up 60-some points a couple times.
One season in 2005.
Attaboy.
Squeaked it in. That's all that
Attaboy.
matters.
That's all that matters. Okay. I'm guessing LSU did it at least once.
Ooh, sorry, Coach. Louisiana State is incorrect. They have not had a season in which they've done it more than once.
Interesting.
So, Coach, that is your 3rd strike, unfortunately. Josh, do you have any more?
Well, I'm going to go with back to the Pirate. Did Washington State do it?
Washington State has not done it.
Well, that's
Twice.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate. I know that a few years ago, Michigan had a 78-point game against Rutgers. Did they do it any other time?
Again, they've had 2 in a season, but not 3.
Ooh. So am I out? Who won? What's
You
going on?
won, Josh, but both you guys forgot Baylor. They account for number 1, 2, and 4 on the list. Baylor
we've
did
crossed them out of our memory. We were doing that to be consistent.
Baylor did it
Yeah.
6 times in the year
Who's
2013.
Who's Baylor?
That
Who's that?
in giant scare quotes Christian school in Waco did it. Did it 3 times, including 6 times in the 2013 season, 5 times in the 2015 season, and 4 times in the 2014 season.
Yeah, but how many times did Rutgers do it?
You mean gave it up? Oh, I'm sure a lot. Other schools on the list include the 2006 Hawaii squad, 2009 Nevada, 2005 Texas, 2017 UCF, 2016 Army, 2013 Florida State, 2011 Houston, 2002 Kansas State, Louisville in both 2005 and 2016, Memphis in 2015 and 17, Tulsa in 2008, and Wisconsin in the Russell Wilson year 2010.
Ooh.
So
I
Didn't
almost
Louisville
guessed
that year in
Wisconsin.
2016? Didn't they get a 60 spot hung on them too by Florida State?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. I mean, it's not
I
like
think
those
I
teams are
remember that
known
year
for
being
defense.
like a weird. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Well, dang. So Clemson's never done it.
It again puts in perspective how special that Russell Wilson year really was, and it still pains me that the Badgers lost that Rose Bowl to Oregon when Oregon had like the most chromed helmets I've ever seen in my life. Anyway,
Those are actually pretty cool helmets. I dug those.
Not in person.
Oh.
It made there was so much glare coming off the helmets in the stadium that like you couldn't it made it hard to watch the game.
It's okay though, because Burt Bellema built such a solid program that he's still coaching at Wisconsin and just dominating things, that he didn't leave in any sort of controversial way.
All it proved is that his offensive coordinator was actually the architect behind everything that was successful, and he is now the head coach. So,
where's Bielema?
He is the defensive line coach for the New England Patriots.
So he's about as essential as Matt Patricia.
Wait, is it even with the Patriots anymore? I think he might be with a different team.
I saw him on the sideline when I was watching.
Listen, man, he could just take over for now that Vince Wilfork is retired, man. They're about the same size.
Yeah.
I mean,
good.
he was
it's just a cheap option.
He's just I have nothing to say about him. That can't be good. The only thing I can say is that he does have an Iowa Hawkeye tattooed on his left calf.
Yeah.
And those Hawkeyes are playing in Ames this weekend, where College Game Day will be there for the first time in its history. Josh, are you going on the road this weekend too? I know you want to be there.
I really, really, really want to. Unfortunately, Ames is just far enough a drive from Chicago that it's not quite feasible.
Just grab a puddle jumper over to Des Moines.
Yeah, but I would rather –
Josh, I'll let you borrow the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast helicopter so you can fly to the game.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like,
Josh, get to the chopper.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited. Stop it. I'm really excited for the people of Ames, but I've been to Ames multiple times for Iowa State games.
Humble brag.
And I've also gotten to see game day in person a couple times, most recently at the Big Ten title game.
It's really not as cool as it seems on TV.
No, because you can't hear anything. You don't know what they're talking about. You don't know what's going on. You're just screaming, holding up a sign. Super excited for the people of Ames. Would I get there if it wasn't a 6-hour drive and needing to be in Ames so that way I could be back up for a show that starts at 8 in the morning. I would like to do that, but it's not feasible, and I'm not going to use my miles on a quick flight like that. But I'll be there in spirit, and whether or not game day's there or not, I think this is going to be a really fascinating game because Iowa State, we know their talent and we know what they can do defensively, and it's a rivalry game, which this rivalry has had some really weird outcomes in like blowouts in years that you don't expect a blowout, super tight games when one team on paper, usually Iowa State, to be honest, looks really weak. One year, Iowa ended up going to the Orange Bowl with a 11-1 mark and went undefeated in the Big Ten, and their one loss was Iowa State, and Iowa State was like a 3-win team that year. So it's had some funky outcomes. We don't know much about Iowa State because they've had one game on the year, and it was also a rivalry of sorts, more of a big brother, little brother situation with Northern Iowa. But Iowa State is going to be amped for the game. And what I think Iowa needs to do is just what they've done these last 2 weeks, which is just kind of a cool, calm, methodical style attack. Nate Stanley is putting together a really special senior year so far. He's got a career high in completion percentage, improving by almost 5% on his previous high. His average is 1.2 yards higher than his other previous best. He's got 6 touchdowns in 2 games to 0 interceptions. His quarterback rating is 32 points higher than his previous career high. So he is off to a fantastic start to finish.
But is that
career.
just a function of the competition?
No, that's a function of by far his best receiving group of his career. Yeah, they lost the 2 tight ends, but their receiving core as a whole is deeper because the wide receivers are so much more talented than he's had to work with. The other thing is, regardless of the competition, he's passing the ball more accurately. We saw him hit on a 58-yard bomb. That's not a career long for him, but downfield accuracy has been a bugaboo for his entire career. He's improved on that a little bit. I think he's making better reads. Against Miami, I got a little concerned in the first few drives where he seemed to be really locked on. I think that might have been rust and not quite up to game speed. He's kind of knocked that off. I thought against their opponent last week, Rutgers. So, well, that's how memorable Rutgers is. Against Rutgers, I thought he was doing a really good job of scanning the field, finding the right person. He had a couple dump offs that were nice. He threw some really nice screen passes, which has also been a little bit of a bugaboo. So even with easier competition, I think it's the accuracy is what is so promising, and that is a function of him playing better, not necessarily a function of the opponent. Am I right, Coach?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's just he is throwing it better. He's played weaker competition. So it's a combination of both. But, in a quarterback's mind, it doesn't matter. Whatever gives you confidence, great. It's like a golfer going out to the driving range and all of a sudden just finding his groove. I mean, that's just something that happens, that clicks. And, quarterbacks are strange creatures. And when you have confidence, you have confidence. So, you just got to hope that Nate Stanley has confidence. But here's one thing that's gonna help Iowa. Iowa State pass rush, their pressure has not been there at all. They've had in their first 2 games.
Well, so here's the thing, Coach. Actually,
had 2 sacks.
Well, Coach, here's one thing I want to ask you, though. So Iowa State was interesting. They needed, double overtime to beat Northern Iowa. Was it double overtime, Josh?
It was.
Okay. That's what I thought. And then they got a bye week. And so one of the things that Matt Campbell mentioned in his press conference this week was that he thought it was the perfect time to have a bye week. And I wanted to talk to you about this because so they kind of, not, let's face it, like as a top 25 team, they played down to their competition. It's an FCS team. I don't care if it's an in-state rival.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a Power 5 top 25 team playing an FCS team. Needing double overtime to beat them, and a team that we had at least some expectations for. So giving them the bye week after that, one of the things Matt Campbell said that he loved this time of the bye because all he needed was that one game sample to see kind of what worked and what doesn't work. And Matt Campbell's a guy that we have all praised for a while in this show. And I wanted to know your thoughts about having that early bye week to sort of work out the kinks, and if you think that is if this was could be a good thing for the team or for a bad thing for the team.
In this particular scenario, it could be a great thing because you get a week of just getting back to basics and really focusing hard on corrections from the UNI game. I mean, it could very easily be just they were just not in sync. They weren't woken up, and it was just a struggle. I mean, they've got to figure out a way to get more pressure defensively. The 2 sacks and 4 tackles for loss against Northern Illinois, Northern Iowa, whatever that team is, Northern Iowa. Josh, you're rubbing off on me. That's.
Hey,
I mean,
it's one thing. It's one thing to confuse Rutgers with someone. Let's give you and I some credit. The Panther Posse.
Yeah, I mean that's not gonna cut it.
The
but
Purple Panthers?
The Purple
Panthers.
Panthers.
They're the Panther Posse. That was what their student section was called when Cam was there.
Oh, was that the Khalid El Amin? Was that their guard in the tournament who took them at least like pretty far?
No, I think
Ali Faroukmanesh.
Ali Faroukmanesh. I'm sorry.
Ali Faroukmanesh.
Yeah.
A proud alum of my same high school.
I feel really, really white guy there because I just mistook one Middle Eastern name for another, and I feel very bad about that.
Come on, Matt. You don't know your Northern Illinois. Look at me. It's such habit. You don't know your Northern Iowa athletics. Come on, man.
Apparently not well enough.
Well, Iowa State. Back to my answer at hand. They also can use this week to find out who's going to win this running back race that they have. They have a committee approach right now, and really there's no front runners. So the bright spot they have is Deshaunte Jones. He had 14 catches. LaMichael Petway, he had 2 touchdown passes caught. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. If they come out sharp, it was a great thing. If they don't, we know that this team has a lot more issues than we once thought. So, we'll see. It'll definitely be fun because rivalry games are that way, especially this particular rivalry. This particular rivalry seems to, the old saying, throw out the record books. This one, usually it's like, that's a cheesy cliche, throw out the record books. Oh, I get it. But in this rivalry, it is truly the case. More so than a lot of other rivalries, for sure.
All right, Josh, give us a prediction.
Pain.
Well, I'm calling the game, so I can't make a prediction.
Thanks, Herbie.
No, look, I think it's going to be a pretty competitive game. I think Iowa State's going to be juiced with game day there. But I just think this Iowa team, maybe they'll prove me wrong over the course of the season, but based on the first 2 weeks, they look like something special. They look faster than I've ever seen them before. Amir Smith-Marset is burning it as a wide receiver. They have this incredible, multi-headed monster at running back where they're just rotating guys in and in and in. They're having random 5th option wideouts, like this little tiny freshman number 3. I already forgot his name, but he has 1 catch and burned to the end zone. They have the Georgia, maybe not Mr. Football, but a really highly touted recruit from Georgia, Godwin, who is a little speedster that's getting time as a true freshman. And Iowa just seems faster than I've ever seen them. Their defense seems vintage, nasty defense. I don't remember a defense this nasty since really like Norm Parker was on the sideline. And I think Iowa is a legitimate contender for the Big Ten West. And Iowa State is a nice bowl team. This is the type of game that Iowa needs to win to show that they have those expectations. I think they will win it ultimately by about a touchdown.
Well, yeah, I don't think they're the actual. Iowa is actually the favorite going into this one. I think they're like a 2-point favorite in Vegas. And another big interconference rivalry game that's being played for the first time in a little bit now this season is Pitt playing at Penn State. In this one, though, Josh, the Big Ten team is the big favorite. Pitt beat Ohio last week, which a lot of people are calling for that upset, but still not off exactly to the greatest start in team history. So
no, Tyrone Tracy Jr., by the way, that was the little speedster freshman that out of Indianapolis that I farted on his name.
But Pitt, on the other hand, like I was saying, they lost to Virginia week 1, 30-14. This game, though, between Pitt and Penn State harkens back to some of more of the glory days of college football, Josh.
Yeah, it does. Unfortunately, Pittsburgh is a team that I'm not sure we know what they do well. They're 53rd in passing yards, but Kenny Pickett only with 2 touchdowns through 8 quarters, not entirely impressive. 105th in rushing, 113th in scoring. Defense is 46th with 20 points per game, but like they haven't played anyone up to Penn State standards. And I know the Nittany Lions have played Idaho, a game we didn't learn much from, and Buffalo, a game we didn't learn a whole lot from. But just in terms of how, I guess, uninspiring Pitt has looked so far, I kind of side with Vegas with the pretty big line on this game. I think Sean Clifford, I don't know if he'll make anyone forget about Trace McSorley, but he is one hell of an encore act.
Yeah, Coach. He is. And, Penn State, another year under James Franklin, they keep losing guys, whether it's in this case, Trace McSorley, or the year before in Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders from last year. And this offense just keeps on chugging out yards and points.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I mean, that's just good recruiting, good coaching, good whatever. I mean, I'm impressed. I've been skeptical every single year that they've lost somebody. I mean, you lose Saquon Barkley, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Lincoln Riley. Losing a guy like Saquon Barkley hurts, but Penn State just keeps rolling right along. Miles Sanders steps right in, next man up, and then Miles Sanders leaves, the next guy's up. It's impressive. It really is.
Yeah, and we've seen James Franklin do this at other stops before, but I did not have very high hopes for Penn State this year. I think in preseason I had them finished like 4th or 5th in the East, and through two games, I know like Josh said, not exactly the highest standard of competition, but man, they look like they are primed and ready to go. And if I was Pitt, I'd be a little bit scared this weekend. I don't know if it's going to be a whiteout or not there in Happy Valley, but
it's always.
I'd be a little surprised it's an 11:00 start.
So probably not.
Games.
It's always a whiteout though. Isn't that the norm? Like seriously.
Well, I mean for the student body it is typically, but
yeah, I thought it didn't matter. They just wore white all the time.
Anyway, I think that Penn State should win this one fairly easily. Another intriguing
their whiteout, by the way, almost will assuredly be the Michigan game. If I were to wager money on it.
Do they only do it once a year?
I believe. Well, they do it a couple times, but they do it for like big matchups, and they like to do it at night games also because it looks amazing on TV.
It does look good on TV.
Yeah, I would lean towards the Michigan game. and they kind of have a poor home slate. Truth be told, maybe they'll just be really ironic and do it to Rutgers.
That would just be cruel and unusual punishment for the Scarlet Knights.
So, Matt, I see this game, Penn State and Pitt, as being one of those. You turn it on, it's 7-0. You go to commercial, and then you like go to a different game for a minute, and you come back and it's like 28-0. And it feels like you were just off the game for like 5 minutes. That's how I feel like this game's going to go.
Oh yeah, I can completely empathize with that position. I'm right there with you. One game that will hopefully be at least a little bit closer than that. Stanford heads down to Orlando to take on South Florida. Davis Mills had to come in for KJ Costello, whose season is done for the year. But Davis Mills was a pretty highly ranked high school recruit in his.
He's done
own
for
right.
the year. Costello's done for the year.
That's what I thought.
I thought it was just a concussion.
Well, just a concussion.
No, I mean like the USC kid totally messed up his knee.
I know Daniels messed up his knee. I thought he was out for the year. I may be mistaken on that.
Let's see. For some reason, I thought it was he's cleared to return.
Oh, okay. So in that case, never mind. My narrative completely changes. I did not do enough research. Well, Davis Mills looked pretty good in relief of KJ Costello last week against USC, albeit in a loss. But Costello will be back for the game at UCF, who has had a little bit of quarterback change in their own right. Notre Dame transfer Brandon Wimbush is out. And in his place is Dylan Gabriel. All he did in his last game was go 16-32, 372 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Coach, Gabriel definitely has taken the reins here.
Yeah, I mean that's good. They've needed somebody.
But coming to the year, everyone thought it was going to be Wimbush, but it just didn't. I guess it just didn't work with him as the transfer.
Yeah, I just don't think Wimbush really – I don't think he really ever had the it factor anywhere he's been. So I thought maybe they were just going to go for it with the experience, but obviously that didn't work out. And fortunately for UCF, Dylan Gabriel did. So who knows? Who knows where their quarterback race is at this point? You'd like to think Dylan Gabriel is, but who knows? But Dylan Gabriel's playing well enough, I think, right now. This is going to be an interesting battle. It's a home game for UCF. Stanford's traveling across the country. So, that usually has to play a factor, right? But Stanford's well coached, as we all know. KJ Costello. We all know that it's not as bad as we once thought. But it's just a concussion. That sounds so weird to say, but so I mean, this game is really you look at it, and I can make 3 or 4 cases of how UCF is going to win. They come up with big plays. They're quick strike, their tempo. They do a lot of things fast, and they keep you off balance, and they're well coached, and they do a good job of it. Stanford's been kind of struggling lately. They struggled last week against USC. They couldn't seem to get anything going in any aspect of the game. Losing Costello wasn't the move. Davis Mills came in and did an okay job, but wasn't good enough. So, the pass defense is a roller coaster. So, I mean, it's just what do you hang on? And Josh, maybe you can help me with this, because I'm having a hard time of trying to pick out that one aspect that's going to turn the tide in favor of Stanford or turn the tide in favor of Central Florida. So I think Central Florida, with the explosive offense, when you have a defense that's on its heels a little bit and reeling a little bit, I think tempo, high octane, score quick offenses can really put extreme pressure on defenses that way. And a defense that's struggling may not find their groove, and they could find themselves on the wrong end of a scoring barrage. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Stanford's got some issues through 2 weeks. They're struggling running the ball, which they shouldn't be because that's sort of Stanford's bread and butter. But in the years that they do struggle running the ball, the year gets away from them. Their offense was terrible against Northwestern's defense. It was terrible against USC's defense. Central Florida through 2 weeks, yeah, it's Florida A&M and Florida Atlantic, but 14 points allowed total. So UCF's defense is going to be having some confidence, probably watching the tape of Stanford going, "Oh, we're faster than these guys." The offense for Central Florida is, as you said, Coach High Octane. They're probably looking at that tape going, "Ooh, we're faster than these guys." And it's Stanford traveling cross country. If this was a Big Ten team or an ACC team or an SEC team, I'd say forget about it. Stanford is going to lose pretty handily. But because it's Central Florida, people think that Big Bad Stanford's just going to walk all over them. It is for you. Central Florida is a absolutely big boy program. They have found a way to reload, not rebuild, and they are extremely well coached. And I mean, you just look at that staff. They have people that have been on major football programs in their careers, and they are killing it at Central Florida. And the bounce house is going to be going crazy because they're on national ESPN at home against a Power 5 team. I wouldn't be surprised if, given the chance, UCF runs the score up.
And if Stanford wants to have a chance, in this game, they've got to make it truly an ugly game. They've got to turn this thing into a slugfest, phone booth, Oklahoma drill type game.
Well, I want to move on quickly to two games that are, well, one of them is officially in the ACC. One of them is unofficially in the ACC. The unofficial one is North Carolina versus Wake Forest, which is somehow not a conference game, but still a matchup between two ACC schools. Josh, this is one of my favorite tidbits about the season this year, that North Carolina and Wake Forest were just needed to play each other, but couldn't do so as a conference game because their conference schedule was already filled out. So it's a non-conference game. It doesn't count in the ACC standings, yet it will actually tell us a lot about both where both of these teams stand in the ACC this season.
Well, like usual, when there's two ACC teams playing each other, I have to double-check the standings because I still cannot ever remember the Atlantic and the Coastal and what the difference is. I could have sworn all the North Carolina schools were in the same division for some reason.
I think it's aren't like Carolina and Duke in one and NC State and Wake in the other?
Yeah, I guess, but come on. It's like the Legends and Leaders. It's so stupid.
Yeah, just do like a North and South because it's stretched out North and South. Just do North and South.
Yeah. But look, I know Wake Forest is the home team. I know they are favored according to Vegas. But the fact of the matter is North Carolina has 2 Power 5 victories. They dominated Miami throughout, gave up the lead, and found a way to win it at the end. South Carolina was the opposite. They were getting their butts kicked through 3 quarters and found a way to win. These Tar Heels are scrappy. They're resilient. And even though Wake Forest, I think on paper, has a little bit better team, and Jamie Newman at quarterback for Wake Forest is off to an incredibly hot start in a small sample size. I don't know. This Tar Heel team just has something special about them, and they seem to be buying into everything Mac Brown has said. I think that after the dark days of Larry Fedora, they're just having fun again. And sometimes when you're just out there having fun, you have no stress. When you have no stress, you're playing with house money. And when you play with house money, you win random games. And so I think Wake Forest, a team that has a little bit of expectations to return to a bowl, and people think that they have a talented offense, then they're playing at home. I think theoretically they might have a little bit more stress on them. And with the loosey-goosey Tar Heels, this should be a really fun game. And I'm so glad it's on Friday, because when else would I be watching this kind of random matchup, not really an ACC game, but featuring two ACC teams? I'm excited for it.
It should be a lot of fun, Coach. One other ACC game, though, that intrigues me is Florida State at Virginia. Florida State needed all the help they could get just to beat Monroe, the Warhawks.
Just real quick, we didn't talk about it, but I don't know why they went for the PAT. I know that.
Well, okay, that was literally my next sentence. Was I don't know why they don't just go for 2.
You have nothing to lose. You've already gotten your paycheck.
Yep.
Everyone's gonna praise it as a gutsy call.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
yeah,
I don't
know. You know, they call it fun. They don't call it Fun Road for nothing. Like, come on, man. Like, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
What do you have to lose? You have. There's nothing to lose. You have all the momentum at that point. If it goes into overtime, it's just do it.
And who cares? It's Florida State. I mean, you have a chance to knock off a team that has a tremendous pedigree, although their name really doesn't mean a whole lot right now. But I mean, you look at the history and tradition at Florida State. You have a team to knock off. You have a chance to knock off a team like that. Fear the Spear, man. You got to do it. You got to at least take the chance. I mean, if I'm a Monroe fan and we go for 2 and we don't get it and we lose, I can live with that. At least we had guts to go for it. I mean, not going to hurt us in the conference standings or anything. I mean, we stood toe to toe with Florida State and came out on top. So, this thing's starting to unravel quick for them. I think it's going to be ugly this weekend. I mean, Virginia is such a sound team, or at least much more of a sound team than they have been. And to be honest with you, they don't have to be all that sound. Florida State will beat themselves. It looks like they've had very brief flickers. Florida State has of where you think and saying, "Hey, man, this is a great assembly of talent," but they aren't a team.
And they haven't been a team for a while. And I think this is one of the same issues we saw with the very small sample size of his 1 year at Oregon as well. And you have a great assembly of talent that does not play as a cohesive unit at all.
I'll tell you what's
you get the third. I think if Virginia if they want big plays, they just need to take every series. They need to take a knee on first down, a knee on second down, because Florida. I mean, it's like gift wrap that you're going to get the first down on 3rd and long, because they struggle. They haven't had a meaningful 3rd down stop yet. The secondary is, well, they're non-existent. They're out of shape. They're gassed. Let's see what else. They don't tackle well. They try to hit with arms folded.
They don't know how to block on the offensive line.
Oh, I'm not there yet. Yeah, their offensive line is Swiss cheese. They have a penalty problem.
They think they're better than everyone.
They love to get penalties.
Cam Akers has 62 touches in his first 2 games. He's their entire offense. I mean, he's an amazing back, but it's just everyone knows that. So every team has had both a safety and a linebacker basically shadowing him, and they can afford to because no one else can get open or seem to break a tackle.
Yeah, without looking them up, name any of Florida State's receivers.
I can't.
Yeah, thought so. James Blackman is a bust. They can't get a good quarterback.
Oh, Hornibrook's there though.
Who wants to play?
Hornibrook.
Yeah,
He's who wants to play there.
Well, Horny for Heisman, man. What the hell?
I mean, Horny for Heisman, decided to leave Wisconsin offensive line with his lead feet to go play behind Florida State's line. He must have a death wish. I don't know what on earth he's thinking. Man. Josh, what are you thinking?
Well, I think the scary thing,
Matt, your cousin at Virginia has led all ACC teams in third third down stops, by the way? Bryce Perkins.
Oh, yeah, my cousin. I thought you were talking about my cousins, Jack and Katie,
Yeah.
who both actually went to UVA, but,
No, your cousin
What?
Bryce.
my cousin Bryce.
I think the scary thing for Florida State fans, and let's be honest, based on the crowd, the last few games, I don't know how many are bothering to show up at the games anymore, but Virginia has 11 sacks. That's third best in the nation. They've defended 5 passes. They've picked off 3 passes. One of those going for a house call. And against their first game, Pitt, a conference game or Power 5 team, they racked up 4 sacks. Jordan Mack, 3 sacks on the young season already. Joey Blount coming in from safety already with 2 sacks on the season. Bronco Mendenhall has a pedigree of some hard-nosed defenses at BYU. He's got that at Virginia. He had that really since day one at Virginia, and it was just kind of waiting for the offense to figure some things out before we thought Virginia could start winning this division. This Virginia team stacked. There's a reason why they were picked to win their division, the ACC. I think they're going to make Blackwood's day pretty long, pretty miserable. I think he's going to need to get the tide out for his jersey because I see a multi-sack day for this hungry Cavalier defense.
Yeah, I see Virginia winning relatively big. So, this is it's a 7.5 point game, and I can see Virginia winning by at least double digits. Speaking of which, we should head to our own spread formations. Week 1, Josh, you and I went 3-2. Coach went 2-3. Last week, I have literally lost what our predictions were. I'm not joking. I cannot find them. I need to go back to the episode and re-listen to it to figure out what we actually predicted. So I will add those up over the weekend and add them to next week. As for now, okay, that works for me. Anyway, let's get started with this week's with this week's lines. We will start in Stark Vegas. A matchup of undefeated teams in Kansas State and Mississippi State. Mississippi State 7.5 point favorites at home. Josh, over under is 52. Where are you putting down a little bit of your hard-earned cash?
I don't know what to make of Mississippi State. They've been rather ho-hum in their first 2 games. A 10-point win over Lafayette. I guess they like to go by Louisiana now. And they beat Southern Miss, but it was 38-15. Neither game really blowouts. The offense kind of struggling a little bit. And Kansas State, 49-14 to Nichols, and then besting even that, going 52-0 over Bowling Green. I don't know. I think this team is like just feeling good about a new coach, new system. They sent Bill Snyder off. They don't have that pressure anymore of trying to play well for a legend. And I kind of am getting a little bit of a upset vibe from this game. So I'm going to pick Kansas State to cover because I think they might win.
Coach?
Ooh.
Well, Coach, as much as I enjoyed your analogy, I'm actually with Josh on this one. Coach, you mentioned that NFL defensive line. Well, they're all gone now, and Kansas State under Chris Kleiman looks fan freaking tastic. He is going to announce himself on the national stage this weekend. Give me Kansas State not only to cover but to win outright. For our next game, we will head to we will head up to the Bay Area. The Mean Green of North Texas are headed to play Cal Berkeley. Hopefully, this one finishes before 4:22 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday morning. Cal 14-point favorite. 14-point favorite at home. Josh, over under is only 50 though. In this one with a high-powered North Texas offense, what do you like?
Well, North Texas totally burned me a week ago. I thought that they were way better than SMU. I thought they would roll in that game.
So did I.
And they got smoked. They lost 49-27. They also gave up 31 points to Abilene Christian in a FCS game to start the season. So that defense is not inspiring a lot of confidence for me. We know Justin Wilcox is going to have the Cal defense firing on all cylinders. Teams traveling multiple time zones to the Pac-12 seldom come away with the victory. I'm going to say Cal finds a way to cover, even though I'm a little bit surprised it was a 2-touchdown spread. I like what this Cal team did, even with the delay.
Coach.
I don't think that was as big a compliment as you thought it was.
Ooh, the under. Coach likes the under. Josh is on Cal. This is the toughest of the matchups for me to pick this week. 14 seems like a lot of points to lay with Cal, but not like I'm that confident after what we saw last week in North Texas. That being said, they still, they've still, despite, losing last week by a fair, but they still put up some points. And I don't know, this is my toughest call of the week, but I am going to I'm gonna back Cal here as well. But I do want to go under 50, but I'm going to back Cal here. So next game, North Carolina State, 6.5-point favorites on the road in Morgantown. Josh, what way are you leaning in in this one with an over-under set at only 45.5?
Yeah, I think this one is fairly easy. West Virginia, I think the cupboard was bare. I think Dana Holgorsen got a nice payday at Houston, but also found a really good time to jump ship, knowing that West Virginia didn't have anything on the roster. They barely beat James Madison, and they got drubbed by Missouri on the road. NC State looked pretty good through 2 weeks. I'm going to say the Wolfpack easily cover that spread. I think they win by maybe even as much as 3 touchdowns.
Coach. Yeah, I mean, how bare were those freaking? I mean, we talked about this with Holgerson, man. How bare are those covers that he left? My goodness, it's so bad. Yeah. Well, yeah. Now we know West Virginia's gonna win because we're all picking the Wolfpack here. Our next one is one of my favorite Group of 5 matchups this weekend. Ohio at Marshall. Both these teams are favorites to at least win. I should say, if not to win their conferences, be very near the top of Conference USA and the MAC. Marshall 5.5-point favorites at home in the state of West Virginia. Over under set at 49. Josh, what side are you on?
Yeah, I might be reading too much into last week, but Marshall went on the road to Boise State and lost in a very narrow defensive game, 14-7. Ohio went on the road to Pitt and lost 20-10. But I would say if Pitt and Boise were to play each other, we would all unanimously pick Boise to win that game. So theoretically, Marshall's coming off the more impressive road narrow loss, getting the game at home. I like both teams a lot overall for their season prospects. I like Marshall a little bit more in this game. I think they cover.
All right, Coach. Well, that's why they put it there, Coach. They're trying to get that action on both sides, boss. Gentlemen, Josh mentioned those scores from last week. I'm feeling a defensive battle here. I'm going to take under 49. I mean, this has all the makings of a 21-17 game as far as I'm concerned. So I will take the under. Finally, Rutgers has a bye week, so I had to find the most pathetic Power 5 team. I mean, you can get good odds on that one too, man. You gotta gobble up those, gobble up that chance. No, with Rutgers off, I had to find the most pathetic Power 5 team that I could. Didn't have to look very far. One of the teams that is nearest and dearest to my heart, UCLA Bruins, 23.5-point dogs at home to Oklahoma. Over under set at 72.5 for the game. And that's not just for Oklahoma's score, but for the teams combined, Josh. They will. No, I have almost zero doubt that they could.
Well, I'm picking Oklahoma to cover, but believe it or not, scoring 70 points single-handedly is pretty hard to do. I think
it is.
I think it's gonna be. Yeah, Oklahoma's going to cover, but the game's going to stay under because Oklahoma's going to score about 60 points, and UCLA is going to contribute nothing to that.
All right, Coach. See, well, that's the thing, Coach. I don't think it's going to be a bloodbath because I don't think UCLA is going to be able to tackle anyone in Oklahoma. And UCLA, when they have the ball, Dorian Thompson-Robinson just gives it to the other team to begin with. So for that reason, yeah, I mean, it's more like leading lambs to the slaughter, but I'm taking the over.
Ooh.
I think that, I think that Oklahoma can put up 50 without even opening their eyes. And UCLA has shown me less than nothing this year. They are genuinely pathetic. I don't understand. I mean, I understand who like the idea of Dorian Thompson-Robinson as a quarterback, but he is not the guy. And I feel bad for him because that offensive line is doing him no favors. The running game is doing him no favors. But he has, Coach, you talked about confidence earlier today. He has zero. He's in negative confidence at this point. And, I feel bad for the kid. Again, I guess we didn't realize how bare the cupboard was at UCLA for Chip Kelly, but we saw signs of life in the second half last year. The start of this year is not pretty. And I, for one, am not, I was a pretty big time Chip supporter, not just when he got hired, but at the end of last season, beginning of this season, I was really feeling Chip. And it has not gone well to start the year. That team needs to make it turn around quick, or else they are going to turn on him in LA even quicker. With that, gents,
two positive stories to end on. Nothing really related to anything that we talked about, but I think the Tennessee story has kind of gone viral. The young kid who got bullied. Tennessee made his shirt design. All proceeds going to an anti-bullying campaign. Stomp out bullying. That's cool. They did offer him a scholarship. They also sent him a lot of clothing. Don't know the particulars of that family, but could be based on not having any garb Tennessee related, with that being his favorite team. Maybe he was a little clothes dependent. Maybe they were living a little by the purse strings or whatever. So awesome story with Tennessee. Also a melancholy, but a story that we're rooting for, I guess. Arkansas State coach Blake Anderson, first game back after his wife passed away this summer from cancer. Georgia is doing a pink out for the game. So a very small step towards helping out Coach Anderson, and we wish him nothing but the best in what is unimaginably difficult times.
Yeah, Corey, that's that's a pretty cool thing for Georgia to be doing. Obviously, your alma mater, and well, I think that Arkansas State is the only team in their home state that's playing this weekend. So, and
I think
with that,
so.
with that, I think we should probably finish up the show.
Crap. No.
What?
No, I just checked my notes. We did it again.
What happened?
We buried a massive lead.
No.
Yeah.
I fail to believe it.
Yeah, this just came across my wire.
I mean, I saw Arkansas State in the rundown. I thought that's what we're talking about.
A thriller in Fayetteville, gentlemen.
Go on.
Big, bad, nasty Colorado State coming in. Colorado State fresh off their thrashing of the Western Illinois Leathernecks, 38-13.
Avenging last year's loss.
Taking on our beloved Razorbacks, who lost a squeaker at Mississippi. Probably a game they could have won with a little bit better play. But I'll tell you who's up and ready for some action. New Arkansas quarterback Nick Starkel getting the starting job after he shredded that sorry Landshark defense for over 200 yards a game ago. Look at him to post a number. I'm thinking smells like about a 400-yard game coming up against the Fighting Bobos. Arkansas rolls. They put up another 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Are we going to have to start changing the chant to Woo Josh Suey?
We can make it happen.
All right. And that's because they just got a safety. So because Jameis Winston is going to Jameis. So
no, that was the running back.
Well, yeah, well it was because it's on NFL Network. That's cruel and unusual punishment.
Oh no, you're gonna miss exciting games like Bills and Texans and Falcons and Chargers.
Or
no.
Dolphins and Colts. No, the Bucs. The Bucs would thrash them because I think the Dolphins are going to be the worst team that pro football has seen since the 0-16 Lions. Or 0-16 Browns, I should say.
No, that game's going to get flexed to ESPN Monday Night Football because the NFL's cruel to ESPN. But it's fine because it makes Joe Tessitore have to watch terrible football.
And he deserves that?
Yep.
Okay.
Texas is back.
So, on behalf of our own offensive coordinator, the coach, Corey Burton, and our intrepid blogger from Big Ten and Counting, Josh Cook, this is the professor saying so long and see you next time on the Texas Motion College Football Podcast.
I've officially done a Joe Tessitore impression before a Lou Holtz impression this year. That's rare. That's rare for me.
Thanks for listening to the Illegal Motion College Football Podcast. To get in touch with the show, email us at illegalmotionpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at illegal_motion and check out our Facebook page.